Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of the Atheist Experience. It's January 4th, 2009. Happy
Part
New
of
Year.
what Jeff was talking about, how people within Christianity like to pick and choose, it seems to open the door to all sorts of other beliefs. Part of why I was calling is about the belief of the law of attraction.
Yeah.
It's one of those New Age mysticism sort of things where like attracts like.
Yeah.
And you know what happens. Pretty much if you think about good things will happen to you. And one of the things that's happening is there's something on the 15th of January which will show up in theaters that is the Return of the Secret or Beyond the Secret or something like that.
Oh, good.
And I've noticed there's a lot of stuff like your show which is in opposition to Christianity and some of their points. But I haven't really seen anything that denounces the points.
I went off on Oprah in one episode because I think that Oprah is responsible for some of the most egregious violations of society as the result of poor critical thinking and evaluation as anybody. Her and Jenny McCarthy may be doing as much or more harm than Rick Warren or Fred Phelps or Falwell or Robertson, who just came out with his 2009 predictions, could ever do. I railed on Oprah once. I know Ashley, who's up here, did a show on a bunch of New Age alternative medicine stuff, Deepak Chopra and some others. We don't hit it as often, and probably not as often as we should. And I think in part because there's a lot of other shows, skeptical podcasts and stuff that do that, and we wanted to focus more, for this program anyway, on things specific to atheism or discussing religion, philosophy. But I'm not opposed to it at all, to bringing it up more often.
Sure. It's just the fact that it seems that because of the fact that Christians pick and choose, that it leaves the door open to all sorts of things like which are opposed, which oppose some of the things which are said within the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah, and yet, I mean, one of the before this whole atheists can go to heaven thing in the media, there was recently this whole thing of a study that claimed to show that if you were not a Christian, you are more likely to believe in various other new agey, supernatural kinds of bullshit. Do you remember that thing?
Mm-hmm.
So, I know that your point is that for a salad bar Christian, they can kind of take some of that other stuff on board as well, along with the Christianity. But I think the reason that study got the results that it claimed to get, that Christians were less likely to believe in those other kinds of things, is because there was a bias in the way they asked the questions. The things that they defined as other kinds of nonsense were specifically the non-Christian things, like the secret and astrology and tarot cards and UFOs and all that kind of stuff, But if you include believing in people floating up into the sky and being half deities and water to wine and all those other kinds of things, you'll find that the Christians believe all kinds of crazy nonsense.
Yeah, and part of it was...
And that atheists are less likely to believe in any of that stuff.
Right. And the other thing was there was another problem with this. We actually talked about this on Nonprofits. I think it was the week you were there, wasn't it?
May have been, yeah.
I think so. It was because the study was atheists are more likely to believe in a bunch of New Age claptrap. And well, that's probably true in the sense that some of the religious people dismiss a lot of that because they already have a huge chunk of their own supernatural nonsense to believe in. Some of the religious people actually accept all of that other stuff too, and they would say that these other religions are people who have been tricked by demons, or that Ouija boards really can contact the dead and it's a pathway to let save you. And so they have a lot of these types of beliefs too. But my thing is that I'm an atheist. And I use the label, I advocate the label, I come out and I speak out about atheism. I'm an anti-theist, I talk about problems with religion and everything else. But really, I am a skeptic. I am a hardcore, critical thinking, philosophical, methodological, materialist, naturalist skeptic. if you go and poll those people to find out how many of them believe in a bunch of pseudo-scientific frou-frou, I think you're going to find that number to be shockingly low. And that's what we're really advocating. You know, I may focus on atheists, and I may talk about religion, but you know, the poll was done poorly. It was, okay, you don't believe in a God, but you know, you believe in all this other stuff. Okay, yeah, there's plenty of people out there that are just like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, I think it's certainly true that the best arguments in favor of atheism versus various major religions, the very same arguments that justify atheism in response to those things justify not believing in all those other supernatural thingies either.
Yeah.
You know, this is why I every once in a while will go off on the Raelians, who are technically atheists because they don't believe in a god, but they're UFO worshippers.
And a sex cult.
Well, yeah, that was just going over their bad points.
Oh, sorry. I forgot we're not supposed to knock the things we're actually in favor of. But yeah, it's an application. You know, it's one thing to be an atheist. You can, and we talked about this before. You can be an atheist for really bad reasons. Mm-hmm. There are people who, you know, don't believe and don't have any kind of rational reason for it. That doesn't necessarily mean that, and I've corrected myself on this in the past. It's that you don't have a specifically rational, skeptical argument that has led you to your position. I still think it's a good thing that you don't believe. The problem here is to come up with a way of thinking that you apply consistently, so that you demand consistent evidence, evidence that is comparable for different claims. If somebody says, you know, hey, we've got a guy here whose arm grew back right in front of me, okay, what kind of evidence would you need for that? It's a little different than somebody says, hi, my name's Bill, and whether or not you decide to believe that their name's Bill. Different evidence have different evidentiary requirements before you can consider them justifiable, and the goal is to develop and hone your Sagan called it the baloney detection kit, your critical thinking skills, the way your brain works, so that you have a consistent application where you're not making special exceptions for your preferred religion or the belief that gives you a warm fuzzy.
Yeah, in fact, at one point on this show, I did a series of talks on the various principles of critical thinking. Yep. So we've covered it. But the caller's right. We don't focus on it a lot, and maybe we should do a little more of that every once in a while.